Welcome once again to Sweeping the Country. I'm your host, Derek Walker, along with my co-host, Mr. Jaime Carter, also known as Jimmy. What's up, Jimmy?
I tell you what a weird week since we last talked.
Boy, oh boy.
I don't think any of us saw war in the Middle East. I guess it's always possible, but it's not something that, anybody had. In fact, if anything, I believe there had been a news conference not long ago, maybe in the last 2 weeks, that some major, government officials said all is quiet in the Middle East right now.
Which in and of itself is scary, but it was a surprise. I mean, it was Saturday. We were doing something Saturday. I can't remember. Oh, we were with friends from out of state.
Morning.
Yeah, and they said to me, they looked over and they go, I guess Israel just went to war. And I said, what? And I don't think long after when you butt dialed me, because I was at that BSU game.
That's right.
That was pretty funny. But Saturday it broke out, and it was a surprise, I think, to everybody, including the intelligence community. They didn't know.
Apparently, yeah. Well, there's more to that story than meets the eye.
Okay.
I mean, how America and Israel, with all the the human intelligence and everything else, why they didn't know something was going to happen.
Yeah, that did surprise me.
That's a bigger story that, again, when you're at the beginning of these things, which we are, and there's people's lives at stake, and there's been tremendous loss of life and everything, it's like anything else. We don't know the whole story.
Yeah, true.
I mean, I'm not sure anybody has the whole story right now, but we're hearing pieces of the story. I mean, you mean on radar, no one saw these guys on paragliders going into the country? I mean, no. I mean, we found about Pearl Harbor later, we learned that there was some guy working on a radar thing up on a mountain and saw things and didn't know who to call. And
just didn't call,
and then we learned a lot about Pearl Harbor and on how big or how not so big that surprise was. And then in this thing, we'll learn, maybe we won't, but somebody's going to learn, a little more about this as time goes on. But things that have concerned, I feel so bad this is terrible. It's worse than it. I mean, yes, it was horrible, 9/11, when you see planes. Look how much we've still learned about that.
Right.
We're still picking up footage that we hadn't seen, and people are still dying from 9/11, from the, like firefighters and others.
The smoke and the building. Debris.
I mean, that's a story that's been ever how long ago that's been. It's still going on. And this story, generations will pass. And it won't. I mean, you've had babies killed. You've had parents killed. You've had parents that save babies.
Yeah.
And, and just all kinds of stuff. And you've got every kind of person involved here. You've got people who are biblically freaked out because, the Bible talks about that. You've got your long-held people's views of anti-Semitism.
That's right.
The Jew haters have been out there for as long as I've been alive. I mean, you don't have to go back very far to see people who've wanted to kill all the Jews, the World War II.
Hitler's
the Nazis.
Yeah, sure.
And then, you've just got it's this. I went and read. I read a lot in the last week because I needed to just figure out geographically where everything was and remind myself that, Israel's not even that old a country, that it was created by the United Nations. To give the Jews a homeland. And you got to, and I just asked myself, are we teaching any of this in school?
Well, Jimmy, you're right. I mean, I had to look up the Gaza Strip to see where it was in Israel, and the only way I can equate it to everybody listening, if you don't know, is if you know anything about Spain and Portugal, it's a similar setup, right? Portugal's on the coast.
Like Portugal.
Yeah, it just kind of surrounds it, and the Gaza Strip is where the Palestinians have been living. I guess
it's almost like Miami Beach is to Miami. Actually.
Yeah, totally. That's a better example. Yeah, 100%.
How 2 million people are on a strip of land that's not very big,
very small,
and long. But again, you're dealing as opposed to the United States, you're dealing in a country that's so, used to warfare and has all these, these terrorists came up to their big, like almost like going into your airport entrance, but you can't even get into that place without going in through all these big things. And they went in there and shot up and killed everybody. This was so organized, had been organized for a long time, with people who weren't just some idiot with an AK-47 going, like you see in some of this stuff. These people knew what they were doing. I mean, some of them were idiots.
They're trained, yeah. No
Some
doubt
were
about it.
idiots, but they were trained.
Yeah.
And now we've got to. Now, is this going to wake up the United States? That's the question.
Ooh.
Let's fast forward.
Okay.
Because Israel's going to kick butt, and they're going to do a bunch of stuff, and people are going to get mad at them because they, everything else. Or Iran's going to get into it. There's many thousand different ways that our Navy might be getting into it. We're going to have planes going in and out of there. What if we have a plane shot down?
Then what?
Are we going to go?
Yeah.
What are we going to do? And there's potential for that tremendously. How is Russia going to play in this? How is China going to play in this? Neither have made a statement about it, and Iran's not made a statement officially. Iran has their own money and oil money, and they're pretty rich,
right?
But they're still a client of Russia.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day,
all that's connected to what? Ukraine. So all these things are connected, terribly connected. And so let's say the United States gets involved with this, either because we're protecting the northern part of Israel, if Hezbollah starts coming in there, or we get involved with somebody shot us down, or we've got our own people trapped somewhere and we got to go get them or whatever.
American hostage,
Is this going to give the green light to China going into Taiwan? Because they're just, are they actually, as we are led to believe, just kind of waiting for the right time to do something like that in a moment of weakness where we can't do anything about it? And then this border thing is crapping out, going crazy. The border, I think even the Democrats have figured out, well, this may be too much, because the mayor of New York's been great this past week, and some of the others, they can't take it anymore. So they're calling names out. Now, I don't know if this is going to slow that down or speed it up or what, this whole thing here. But how many terrorists have come in through that open door down there? We've had 3 million people.
That's a lot. Let's say let's just say 100. Okay.
No, just say 100.
Okay, fair.
And that is some minuscule, and I don't know, I'm not a mathematician.
You are very conservative,
out of 3 million is nothing.
It's not.
But 100 people. Imagine what 100 people could do if they were organized by somebody in a sleeper cell type thing, told, and I don't want to give any ideas, so I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah.
But what if they were told to get this and this common ingredient and do this to this? I mean, almost anything. So this week, here's some of the headlines of things you're not getting because they can only do so much on TV. And, right now, you're monitoring Fox, and they're, showing Gaza lit up in the middle of the night. They actually do. It is lit up over. Oh, you can't see it, can you?
No, I can't see your monitor.
Not over here.
Oh, yeah.
Whoops.
You're on it too. Yeah.
Where is it?
Yeah, I got it right there.
There it is.
Same picture.
Anyway, there that is.
Yeah.
And it is lit up, and they are having, all night.
Yeah.
They're going in and doing stuff. But here are the things you're not hearing about. New York City is on alert for lone wolf attacks.
Great. Yeah.
They're very concerned about that. Every big city and maybe some smaller ones all have right now uniform, probably marked cars in front of their synagogues.
Yeah, not a bad idea,
everywhere.
Right? Yeah.
That's everywhere. We've had that in Nashville for years. Let's see. You've got there was a real nervous thing in Santa Monica this week when this guy climbed the Ferris wheel at the Santa Monica Pier.
Yeah, I saw that.
He told people he had bombs. He had a bomb with him, so they had to take him at his word. He didn't have a bomb, but for crazy.
Yeah.
How about the guy that jumped into the memorial water at 9/11? They have a dugout place where the building used to be.
Yeah.
It's now a fountain.
Yeah, I saw that too.
They don't know if that was some kind of nut. He was a nut, but what kind of nut? What he was up to.
Yeah.
There have been several things that have scared people already.
Yeah, I would say we're on high alert, and this enhances that 100 times. I mean, you and I have talked about these things before, but never with in the back of our mind watching it unfold in another country. I mean, this kind of sneak attack, on all these different buildings and everything. Boy, it doesn't take a lot of people to do that. So it is scary to think about who has crossed the border, where are they now, and are they part of anything bigger?
And see, is Russia, are they smart enough to be ultimately behind all this?
Gosh,
China and Russia?
I don't know.
I bet it's come up. at their
sure.
meetings of their ghouls. China has made Israel mad already because they've had a very soft stance on this. Almost said nothing.
Yeah, he said
they're trying to organize the Muslim world against Israel, which they've tried to do because this administration has worked hard trying to get Saudi Arabia and Israel to do some kind of deal on something, and they were getting close, and that may be why this has happened when it happened.
Yeah,
Zelensky is saying that Russia is trying to incite the Middle East because he wants to get, the funding and everything put on them and away from them so they can go ahead and shut them off as we head toward winter.
I want to ask you, I can ask you because you know all this stuff. And I mean, you've been around so long. You've seen this happen so many times and seen it from a reporter's standpoint, which I really appreciate. But I look at Ukraine right now and I wonder how many different fronts can we fund or be part of before we're vulnerable ourselves? I mean, is there
right now we have the Secretary of Defense headed off to NATO.
Mm-hmm.
What's Europe's role in all this?
Right,
stuff?
Not much.
I mean, just they got money. They're not poor people, although they've screwed up a lot of those countries over there because of their immigration position. I was hearing somebody who was over in London this week and saying that, man, there's a tremendous percentage of the population of the London's a big place, like New York, but the core of London is now some pretty big percentage of non-English speaking people.
Even when my wife was there for school and college, and that was millions of years ago, she said even then you could see you could see a trend happening as far as population goes.
Continued to go bigger and bigger with their goofy. With some of their goofy stuff. And I don't know. I mean, you just got a lot of stuff. Finland probed suspected sabotage of gas pipeline. This is what, if you go back and study further World War II.
Yeah.
The Europe theater over there, and Eisenhower was sort of running it along with Winston Churchill. It's kind of easy to understand.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've got Germany and, they're out here and you're fighting them over here and fighting them over here. And you're fighting them out in the Atlantic because they've got U-boats, and some big, the Bismarck boat and all that. And then over here on the Eastern Front, you've got Russia. So, that's not the Soviet Union. They're Russia.
Right.
And they're fighting on that front. And we all get together and in Italy, that's something. And they had gone fascist. So we had to fight them a little bit, but they weren't much.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got North Africa that was a mess. All right. All that stuff is kind of something you can get your hands around. But at the same time, we were dealing with Japan.
Yeah, that's true.
Think about this. The cell phone hadn't been invented. Communication was not anything like it is today. And you had the whole Pacific, which is still a big void, for us mostly, even with satellites and everything. But you had all these places cropping up, with Japan had their tentacles out, as China does today.
Yes.
Into all these islands and places and trying to, impose their will over things. And we were trying to fight that and get, Australia's always been kind of weak.
Mm-hmm.
So they did what they could to support us, but they're not a big country. The U.S., we've been out there and we did that. And the Pacific Theater, wow, after we got slapped in the head worse than we did on the Eastern side, we joined the fight over there. We had to start the fight over here after getting bombed ourselves in Pearl Harbor. So we had to protect both sides of the country. So it brought everybody together. You didn't have a choice because this country could have gone down one way or the other.
Yeah, you're right about that.
We had not, had everything going for us in that. So is this the beginning of something else? I don't know. It's why it's important for people who have been asleep. You've got a lot of young people who are not connected to anything.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't been taught anything about World War II or the Middle East or anything else. I mean, I don't know what they learn anymore. I think they're learning math and science. And, I have a big problem when that's the core of what they're learning because, math helps you think.
Yeah, sure. It's good to have it.
I'm not good at it. So that's why we're in broadcasting.
Yeah.
But math was not my strong suit.
I'm good at math.
science, I liked geology, but I didn't rest of it. But we were learning other things, communication skills and things like that.
Definitely.
And learning about history and other things. And the fact that they don't have that balance anymore, you've got to learn about history.
I would agree. And I even feel like now as an adult, I have to sit down. Like we were just talking about, where is the Gaza Strip in comparison to where Israel is, or where is it located? Is it on the coast and all that? I don't remember ever studying any of that, ever. I really don't.
I picked it up, and I don't know how. I mean, I did take some history in college, and took a lot of geography in college.
Well, there's where that is, yeah.
Me, but it's useless information, because Africa has changed the name of every country there
since you went through
30 or 40 years. But it's a lot to learn, and you wonder. And people wonder why the president of the United States, whether he's your team or not, why they grow old in that office.
Yeah, the stress has got
to know. The world, we're running it. We're in there in the world. We're on the front page of a world that's, got a lot going on.
Yeah, you're right.
One thing today, Russia supposedly wants to fight us up in Antarctica. No, in the North Pole area.
Yeah,
okay. That's a place that's, we don't even hear about, but that is a big place where we're having a lot of military hubbub going on up there.
Yeah,
because that's their play. They kind of understand that terrain.
Yeah, sure.
And nobody else does, and they want to take that over. There are minerals up there, and
I bet there's a bunch of them. Yeah.
So that's a whole nother place that you don't hear about. And then you've got all these other problems with unions, which we're having right now for good reason.
Yeah.
And you've got still the threat of COVID and flu victims and everything else. There's a lot to worry about if you're a president. And you wonder about this president. He looked when he did his speech the other day, he got up there. It was good.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to say good things when it's good. You can't just everything sucks. He got through that all right.
Yeah. I was actually looking. I was looking for something, and I had a hard time. It was pretty clean, which is not always the case, but it was. I agree with you.
He got through it. He didn't stumble. And
yeah,
I believe. Whether I believed everything he said, I don't know.
Yeah, I think I
did. Story. I hope the United States has a resolve to stay with this, but who knows?
Yeah, you brought it up
to do up there.
Yeah, you brought it up earlier, and I was thinking about it when you were saying, well, if 100 people made it across the border and they were activated and all, and not to scare people, I don't want to do that, but it made me think.
Well, we need to get it's about time that somebody gets a little scared.
Okay, fair.
It really is a little. We don't need to be operating off of complete fear, but damn, you got to get your head out of your butt.
Yeah,
because you've got to realize
that
there are. If you listen just a little bit without having to go in there and just send yourself to the psychiatrist. If you listen to what happened to those people in Israel today,
it's horrible.
One thing that they had that they weren't ready for. Everybody over there has a safe room. Not everybody, but most everybody that has two nickels together has a safe room. Or they're part of a religious organization or a school that has a safe room. Do you know what they were doing?
No.
The bad guys were coming in with what we use in our SWAT teams, putting on C4 charges or the equivalent and blowing the door off of the safe room to get in there.
So they
weren't ready
for
that. They weren't ready for that. They hadn't planned for that.
Yeah.
They never. But the people on the other side, they planned for it because they knew they couldn't get to anybody.
Yeah.
So they had to go in there armed with the to be able to blow the safe door in.
Amazing.
That's
it's crazy.
What they did. That's how they got to people.
Yeah, it's crazy and it's scary. And you just said it's a great example of how this group, whether they're militants that are within Palestine or whether it's Hamas coming through the north or whatever it is, these people don't play by the same rules of engagement that you would if you sat down with China or Russia or whatever. These are militant groups.
We saw that in wars too.
Yeah.
If you had to choose between being in a German prisoner of war camp, if you were a soldier, or a Japanese prisoner of war camp, you'd take the Germans every time.
Really? Interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's
wild. The Japanese, go read about the horrors of those men that had to go into Japanese in terms of how badly they were treated and tortured and abused. And, Germany they were hardly the good guys, but it wasn't quite. It was they were really bad, really bad over there in the Far East. They didn't have the the rules, honoring it, even a little bit of the Red Cross or anything.
Crazy. It's crazy. It's a different animal, and there's a deep hatred there. There's a deep. I mean, it's part religious. It's part political. It's part everything, and it's hard to understand all of it. It really is. It's hard.
Oh, it absolutely is. But people do need to, and that's where it goes now. Let's talk about Twitter for a second.
Yeah, sure.
Since I was, most people I know are not big Twitter people. I was, because I got a lot of my news from there.
Yeah, I'm very minor now. Called
most all of the news people, all the good news people had Twitter accounts, and TV stations too, and they put stuff on them, and they were quick about lighting it up. So the news broke out quick, from the New York Times to whoever it was. Well, since Elon Musk got it, and people got mad at it, and he decimated the staffing of it, there's bad stuff coming up there. People have posted wrong information. There was a Jerusalem Post fake account that somebody put up there. Some people have posted pictures of things that aren't even the war. I mean, some other war. Oh. And there's been a lot of just crazy crap going on, and I hate that.
Yeah, so, I do too.
As people that don't know how to, even if you do know how to look for news, you could have been fooled by any of those
how
things.
Do you
so
sift?
You can't trust
how do you
Twitter
sift
anymore.
through it? I mean, how do I sift through it?
It's very difficult. And it's like there's a guy named Zach Bryan, who is a new country singer, and he just yesterday. And okay, I don't even know if you know who he is. Let's leave it. Keep that in mind. He just booked 3 nights at the Crypto.com arena in downtown Los Angeles, is the old Staples Center.
Yeah, sure.
He's booked 2 nights at Barclay in Brooklyn, Barclay Center, and then he booked 1 night in Nashville at the stadium. And most people, they wouldn't know him if you walked down the street. Who gets to do? I mean, that's huge. He just had a record.
Yeah.
He just had a record that broke a record that no song in the history of popular music has ever done.
No idea.
He simultaneously debuted #1 on the Hot 100, the Hot Country, the Hot Rock and Alternative, all at the same time. No one's ever had a song that got all those charts at the same time.
I'm trying to look him up right now because I know the name.
Zach Bryan. And so how did he get to be famous? His songs don't get played on the radio, by the way. I think he's had 1 song on the radio and 1 attempted song on the radio. So how did he get so famous he's able to play stadiums 3 nights in Los Angeles and 2 in New York? TikTok. That is where all the footage is going. That's where the unfiltered news is going for this particular world event.
Which has no checks and balances, right? I mean,
it's totally unfiltered, and that's why everything is out there the way it is. Now with Twitter, there crap's up there. I mean, it's some of it's filtered, some of it's not. Some of it's good, some of it's not. But it's not the dependable place where you could trust what you were seeing. And then, I mean, on the other hand of that, Facebook, they seem to be whacking everything. I think they're bots or humans or whoever it is.
Oh yeah, there's AI in there.
They seem to be blocking out everything. So you're not getting squat off of there.
Oh no, their algorithms change every day, and I'm sure there's artificial intelligence wound into that so deep that they don't even have control of it anymore. I don't trust anything on there anymore. I don't even trust.
I don't trust Facebook at all. I wish it would go away.
Yeah,
honestly, I'm glad I can talk to my relatives and I see my family pictures, and it's a good way for us to keep up.
Yeah,
but I hate them so bad. On the other hand, I just and then and Twitter's gone down the handbasket. I don't go to Instagram like a lot of people do, a lot of artists do, but I don't get anything out of that either. So I wish we're not in a comfortable place, with our news. Now, with that said, I fought people today on this. A lot of people hate CNN.
Okay.
CNN has muddied the waters because of their political stances.
Yeah. Sure.
NBC has done far worse for themselves with their far left-wing political stuff, as Fox has, on the
right
far
side.
right.
Yeah.
So who do you go to get something that, were you just trying to find the news? Well, let me just say this and try to listen past your bias. CNN, when they're covering the bombs and the explosions and all that kind of stuff, they're hard to beat. They've got great reporters, a couple of them that are just really good if you've got a war going on. Now, if you're talking about political coverage or trying to analyze what the White House is doing or something, then they're off into their typical area
right.
of where they lean.
Right.
Same way, but Fox doesn't have any resources. They have to use on something. They have one or two reporters. They have a great reporter, one great reporter named Jennifer Griffin, who covers the Pentagon. Take that to the bank, whatever she says.
Okay.
She's really good. And she's the only one that I'd almost say that about. There are a whole bunch of pencil-headed newsreaders at Fox, but, they're just what they are. Jennifer Griffin knows her stuff. She had Kilmeade was doing anchoring the other night, and he had her on there, and boy, she straightened him out on a couple of stories.
I love it.
Right off the bat.
I love it.
Because she knows she knows what's on the ground in the Middle East. She knows the military. She's careful. Why someone doesn't steal her at one of the other networks, I don't know. But she's one you can trust. But it's difficult. I mean, CNN, you might not like Anderson Cooper because of his, personal issues or whatever else, but he's damn good at what he does. He is really good at what he does.
Sure, yeah.
And he's a really good interviewer. He's really good under fire, and keeping his cool in a place like that. He's really good. But now it just seems that people can't get past their biases. Whether it's
that's fair.
They're just so pro Fox, they want to wear a Fox T-shirt. Everything Fox is good. No, everything Fox is not good. They're not a great news organization. CNN has depth. They're like a great pro football team, but they have lost their way. Their head of the network, who's new. He just started Monday.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine that being your first full day of work?
Yeah, boy. The war breaking out.
So,
and
it's just, but they've done a good job so far. But if you want to get away from, don't go to either one. If you're so politically motivated, which most people are, and you just want to find out, really go online. And I'm going to make sure I can do this, myself.
All right. Well, you're looking that up.
Here he is. Okay.
Just
put in there, just the top of the searches I just did. It's great. BBC News.
I have been saying that. We watch BBC.
They are the best. They are consistently the greatest network in the world.
Now, wait.
They cover the world.
Do they have a slant?
They have their biases.
They do. But it's not anything like our American media. It really is not. It really is a joy to watch.
This is a great web page that just came out. It looks good. They're covering things live. They've got better pictures, I can tell you already, than I've seen. Fox does not have a great web presence. They don't believe in it, or they just don't do it well, or don't spend the money for digital or whatever. These people spend the money. Man, I'm looking up here, and it's got all the different they're covering Gaza from the inside, whereas the Fox people are covering it from the outside. They've even got this story, which is really good. I mean, this is really good. Backlash over Harvard students' pro-Palestine letter. There are a lot of people, that are, the left has had people, and the right too in some cases, that are, we started to talk about this, but anti-Semitic, that don't like the Jews for whatever reason, that think we've, spent too much money on Israel. And I don't know where they're coming from about this, but I did run into somebody who, there are reasons legitimately why people don't like them. They have a homeland that they've tried to keep safe, and the people, they're trying to coexist with people who hate them. And so do they treat the Palestinians great, or some of the others, do they treat them more like second class, third class, fourth class citizens? Probably. But they know that they're hated by them and they don't trust them. But they've got to live alongside them. So there's a reason why people feel the way they do. But this is completely really good coverage. Really good coverage.
I agree. I'm really glad that you said that. Just real quick, because my wife and I have been watching BBC News for a long time, just because it seemed like they covered world news more like they covered the whole world. It wasn't just one story. They covered the whole thing. But for you to say it, after being in this business for how many years, Jimmy? I mean, you've been in this business for
over 50.
50 years, to say something to me where I was sitting here at home and going, I really like this. It seems like it has less of an angle than anything else I'm watching. The coverage is broad. They have reporters everywhere. Everywhere. They're so deep. And you say it, and I think to myself, aha, we are onto something, and you're onto something. And I encourage people to watch it. I have no stake in the game.
One, but you got to be careful with this one.
Okay, go.
It's also British, but they do the best at photojournalism. With I love the art of photojournalism.
Yeah.
When you look and see a war photographer has gone over there with a still camera taking this and taking that, or frozen a moment in time, as I'm looking at here, they've got a lot of crap. Remember, they're trying to survive in this world too.
Yeah, right.
And so because of that, you've got a lot of these media people that cover too much Taylor Swift and
right.
And Paris Hilton learning how to walk on the Paris runways and all that crap. They've got that over there for that audience that wants to see that. But right now, the Daily Mail.
Oh yeah, I've seen that a few times.
I mean, this is so far ahead of every other newspaper in America.
Okay,
they've got better pictures. They've got better coverage. Right now, they're showing me. It's recorded, but it's I-24 News. I-24 News is a local network within Israel.
Okay.
And so they're showing that right now, and they're
that'd be interesting.
near the Gaza border, and she's got her helmet on, and they're doing you can see some soldiers, exactly the mass casualty, blah, 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 blah. And that's where they've had the beheaded children.
Oh, gosh.
So that's one of the places where they're seeing that. But they've also got all the Biden stuff that's made it up there, his address, and they've got that up quickly. They're going into the example, where all the different, what animals these were that did the atrocities. I mean, just terrible. And all the different stories that they've had to do. They've also, called out this Representative Omar, who's certainly making a lot of people angry.
Oh yeah, is she the one with the flag? Is she the one that's hanging?
No, she's the one from Minnesota that said, that Israel should not fight back. Called their military efforts a war crime after Hamas did what they did. I mean, there's some people that want to get her kicked out of the legislature. So that just, that's what that is. AOC
but they're covering it. They're covering
quiet
it
now.
Yeah, but they're covering it.
They cover it, absolutely. And then they go into other stuff. Explosion at a Los Angeles correctional facility, multiple officers transported to the hospital. I didn't know about that. NYPD conducting perimeter searches around key institutions. I'm not surprised that they're all geared up. Britney Spears or pulled over and ticketed for driving without a license or proof of insurance by the California Highway Patrol.
See, they're covering that from where? So Daily Mail, BBC, British Broadcasting Company, is that what that stands for?
Yeah.
Okay.
British Broadcasting.
And they've been around for a long time. I mean, how long have they been?
Between them and Daily Mail, you learn all the junk about Sophie Turner and Serena Williams and everything else, and this glamour golfer Paige Spiranak, but you're also getting, at the very top, you're getting the absolute. And then when you click on one of their stories, I'm going to click on the top story, which is Biden finally breaks his silence on act of sheer evil. And I'm going to scroll down on here. And and then you've got the great photojournalism. There's a picture here of people mourning a grave over there in places that I can't pronounce. And with that, in that gallery are 10 pictures from Reuters and the Associated Press. Reuters, Associated Press are legitimate. So their pictures, if it says AP on it via Getty Images or Reuters, they're absolutely correct.
Okay.
And they're not, unless they forge that too. And that's even a bigger problem. But you make sure you know what you're doing when you get your sources. Don't go to Snapchat. You're not going to tell these kids anything. They're going to do what they're going to do. But I'm just telling you, if you are a somewhat discerning person, try to pick your sources and pick around it. There's nobody that's perfect. Even back on the BBC, God bless them. I was looking at let me tell you what, that was funny because I just happened to notice if you scroll down a little bit. All right, the first thing is Hamas attack on Israel, an act of evil, because that's Biden's speech. It's fresh this hour.
Yeah, and
then it's got a bunch of other stories terrorists have her and her babies. Reservists flock to join. No electricity and food in Gaza. Nowhere safe in Gaza from Israeli strikes, and they're intensifying. They hadn't even seen intensity yet. Wait, hang on. And then it gets down here, the next thing, and it's pumpkin weighing 2,749 pounds squashes world record.
Finally, they reported on my story, Jimmy. I grew this pumpkin many years ago.
They've actually gone to pumpkins, you know, and the 1,000 birds dying after hitting U.S. buildings in Chicago.
All right, so they do it too, but
it's
still
migration time. So they're covering everything.
They are
covering everything.
No, I love
really
it.
Good. So you get it all. So if you have a bias that's against, now is BBC biased when you cover them? Yes,
they are.
I've seen them cover Washington. There's the Washington correspondent for the BBC, and she's as liberal as the day is long. Yeah. So you just got to watch. You got to watch out for.
No, you know who trained us? I'll tell you.
Trying to get the facts.
You say watch out for it. Let me tell you something. After watching MSNBC, CNN, and Fox for the last 10 years, 15, 20 years, whatever, they have trained us on how to spot that stuff. And I'm telling you right now, BBC is a lot less of it. There's a lot
less of it, right. Yeah. But when you're having people cover Washington and cover the Speaker of the House race and all that stuff, people are going to give opinions, and whoever's fed them their stuff is what you're going to hear. Yeah. So all that's going to be biased to a point.
No matter what.
Same way with war coverage. But if you're just trying to get the facts on a story that's like a hurricane, that's like a war, that's just, you know, I need facts, I need information, and there's a lot of sides to cover. I'm very pleased with what I've seen from the BBC.
It's a really good source, and so is this, Sweeping the Country. Every week we do this, and Jimmy, your expertise that you lend every week is fantastic, and the information we get, I mean, Daily Mail, BBC, both great recommendations. And folks, for this story specifically, right now, what's going on in the world, try it out. I mean, you can decide for yourself. Everybody's got free will, right? But you'll like what you see, and it's a little different than what we're used to here. And if you're tired of what we get here all the time, it's a great way to take a little bit of a break, but still remain informed. And Jimmy, I'm excited to do this again next week. And as always, tell a friend about the podcast. We'd love to have as many of you listening as possible. Until next week, I'm Derek Walker. He is...
I'm Jimmy Carter.
Good day.
Good day.